This is Wednesday, November 9th, 2016, and this is The Closer. I'd like to begin by congratulating the FBI on its successful coup against the electoral process of the United States of America. You've been working on one of these for a while, boys, and I know everybody at the Bureau is just delighted that the F can now also stand for fascist. Also, let us acknowledge a little bit more seriously something a little larger and a little less removed from treasonous malfeasance. The terrorists have won. This, after all, was their goal 15 long, sad years ago, to strip from the world's foremost power its traditions of relative and growing tolerance, to hamstring the international influence of a country that rarely stuck to the double white line of the moral road, but came closer than any other, to take our energies from trying, more or less, to help the world move forward and instead to make us direct those energies inwards at one another within our own borders, to divide us so, to complete the rupture of our settled, bizarre culture that had been so long based on the inner monologue of, I really can't stand those people in the other party or the other state or the other color, but my strongest emotion is going to remain annoyance rather than hate, because we're all Americans and we're all in this together. Today, officially, that's gone. Obviously, the perpetrators of 9/11 had other designs that have yet to come to pass, the destabilization of all the secular states of the Middle East, the rising up of a caliphate, etc. But for the moment, that's not important to our discussions here, because the premise of the 2001 terrorism here was to take those divisions that were already then kind of apparent in American society and multiply them by fear. Fear of more attacks, of sedition, of disloyalty, of weakness, of difference, of immigrants, of minorities, of the loss of the playing field that was still tilted towards white people, but was leveling just a little bit more every year. Took a long time for hatred and fear to find some figure in this country who would pander to them, someone whose ego and lust for power would be the perfect vessel to exploit our collective post-traumatic stress disorder, someone who would say anything, do anything, have an answer for everything, even if the answer was made up out of whole cloth and on the spot. The goals of those who attacked us in 2001 finally found an outlet. And last night, Americans, certainly half of them with no more sense of the permanence or importance of their decision than they brought to their votes for American Idol, opened the door and put the spokesman for hate and fear and bluster and, most of all, incompetence in charge of the nation. Collectively, we have slit our own throats and ordered, mixed, drank, and paid the bill, $12 a glass, for our own poison. There is an irony that might be noticed in our upcoming months and years of free fall, namely that the first victims of this act of mass madness will be many of those who pushed the hardest for it and put the most faith in it. The economic impacts will be felt long before the inauguration next January, hell, long before Thanksgiving, and the Rust Belt states that turned against democracy and diversity yesterday will doubtless be the first to be consumed by job loss and financial panic and privation. Cold comfort for the rest of us, indeed. So what is next? Well, if you look for transformation within the new elected leader, Fat Chance, nothing has changed him in 70 years, and if there is anything to guarantee that he will not temper his Hitlerian personality, that he will not be restrained by any remaining adults among Republican leadership in the House or the Senate, that he will not reach out to those who did not vote for him, if anything could actually increase his obstinance and refusal to share or delegate or think, it would be this extraordinary, unprecedented development in American history. Right now, he thinks he is Superman. But of course, he is not Superman. The economy will be a complete shambles by the time the oath is administered, and there will be no quick fix available for making great deals, corner cutting, or bellowing, I'm not paying for sloppy work. He, of course, will insist that everything is great, and his mere presence will assure we have made America great, and anybody who thinks otherwise is disloyal or an ISIS sympathizer or somebody he's going to sue. And as the standard of living plummets, he will try a diversion of some kind. The wall or the deportations, maybe, but boy, those things take time. So he'll probably do what they all do when there is no fix to the vital day-to-day issues and problems. A war, or some bizarre gambit in the Middle East that will in fact restore ISIS and destabilize the world just a little bit more every damn week. It will be bad. It will be very bad. Americans and others will now die. But necessarily there will be blowback. There always is. Blowback against the good, as this election just showed, but also blowback against the bad. And at some juncture soon, there will be the resistance. Those of us who warned against and pleaded against and fought against this madness will find avenues for dissent which will have enough support in at least to impede this monster. Put any title you like in front of his name, and this is still an aggressively self-destructive man, and it will be the goal of the resistance to help him in that task. At some other juncture, soon or late, probably even before the midterms of 2018, a tipping point will be reached, whether it's war or the economy or some wild card we can't see yet that is bouncing around in that great stash of funhouse mirrors in his head. It will be the Republican governors and the Republican senators and the Republican congressmen who will see the crowds of Republican voters demanding action against the irresponsible and delusional Republican president, and an impeachment will begin of what is nominally a Republican president by what is actually a Republican Congress. None of that is guaranteed. But it should be noted that Richard Nixon was not forced from office until his Republican colleagues acted in concert with Democrats to demand his resignation. Moreover, the political history of this country for the last 50 years has been a series of wild pendulum swings, from the Civil Rights Acts to Richard Nixon in 3 years, from Bill Clinton to George W. Bush in 3 seconds, from Barack Obama to this creature in less than 3 months. And if this creature is still in charge of this government and has not yet fled the country, then there are those midterms in 2018 and the attempt to begin a restoration, unless he acts in the interim against free elections. And I would never assume that in a nightmare like this, the Freddy Krueger in chief suddenly starts obeying the laws. In any event, I want to leave you with 2 quotes. It's H.L. Mencken from 1926, and the long form of it actually is, "No one in this world, so far as I know, has ever lost money by underestimating the intelligence of the great masses of the plain people." And the other, of course, is, "You can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time." That is attributed to Abraham Lincoln, and it pretty much sums up that phase of the American experiment which the electorate decided to end last night. Because there is, of course, no real evidence that Lincoln ever said this. In short, you can fool all the people just long enough to become the first anti-democracy president of the United States. Oh wait, one more thing. It's a conceit, probably. It's whistling past graveyards, perhaps. A little Churchill adjusted to the occasion. Even though large tracts of America and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of Trump and all the odious apparatus of Trump rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in the state legislatures. We shall fight in the stores and banks. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our America, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight online. We shall fight in the press and on the television. We shall fight on the street corners of public opinion. We shall never surrender. That's the closer. I'm Keith Olbermann. Watch your back.